Alrighty, hello everybody, welcome back to Dandy's World, and I'm gonna be honest guys, there's no way that I was gonna predict this one. Brusha Toon of the Week is here. So, just recently, literally, I'm talking literally as I'm recording this, like probably like not even an hour ago yet, on the Roblox page for Dandy's World, there has been a change to the current Toon of the Week event. Previously, I mentioned on Monday's video, I mentioned that the Toon of the Week was completely empty and it had question marks. But now, there has been a change to this event, and now the question marks have been replaced with Brusha. Along with this, there has also been a update in the Blush Crunch Discord server. Maybe they just had to figure out who they were going to actually do. So the message that they posted in the Blush Crunch Discord server is as follows: grab your paints and celebrate Brusha this Toon of the Week. So actually very bland. I think we've got some more interesting stuff for the other Toons of the week, but honestly, not bad. What else more do you say? On the Roblox page, it says the same amount of stuff. It says the same thing we always see. Celebrate Brusha all week with gameplay changes, quests, rewards, twisted adjustments, and more. So today, as I walk over to the elevator like I normally do, let's go ahead, dive in. Let's talk about what you're going to want to make sure that you do before this Toon of the Week. Let's talk about what I think is going to be the challenges, because honestly, Brusha challenges, that's kind of interesting. I don't really know what Brusha's challenges could be, but we'll definitely figure that out today. So on the Roblox page, they mentioned that there is going to be some gameplay changes, and we have seen in the past that some Toons have received changes to how they interact. The first being Finn's, that we saw a big change to, where he got a little bit buff to his movement speed. Very, very minimal, but still a little buff. And then Tisha, we saw, got the ability to clean up ichor puddles. So, we don't know exactly what Brusha's is going to be, so therefore, you're going to want to make sure that you have Brusha before this event starts. Like I've said in most videos that we're covering the Toons of the Week, these Toons have been out for a very long time, so I'm sure most of you have Brusha by this point. But if you don't, you might as well go ahead and grab her before this event starts. So moving on from that, there's actually not a whole lot to be considering for this Toon of the Week. There was a little bit more speculation that I could go into for Finn and Tisha, because there was just a bit more surrounding them and what they could do. But to be honest, I'm really not 100% sure what they could change Brusha's ability to be. Being honest, and kind of adding on to what I talked about last video, my Toon of the Week prediction that I made in the previous video on Monday, I said that Poppy would have been a great idea, and it would make sense to give a trail buff. I still believe that that trail buff can happen, but now may be applied to Brusha. So we could see an ability change for Brusha, or some type of completion change, whatever it may be, to where the Waxwell Trinket will now have an effect on Brusha. But that's just my consensus. I think it's weird that they added that ability for Waxwell's Trinket when there was nobody else yet that had a trail, so I think it's very likely to see something else for a trail in the next coming updates, if it's not this one. So moving on to the next thing, let's go ahead and talk about the challenges and rewards we should be expecting to see. So the first quest that we are all going to be aware of, this has been the same quest that has been in the previous Toons of the Week, that I think is a pretty likely thing that we are going to be able to see in this fourth Toon of the Week, is you are going to need to encounter the twisted version of the Toon. So in this case, we're going to need to encounter Twisted Brusha. The interesting thing is, I don't really know how much you're going to need to encounter Brusha. For Tisha's Toon of the Week, you needed to encounter Twisted Tisha 5 times, while for Finn and Sprouts, you needed to encounter them 3 times each. I think at the end of the day, we can probably sit on a better conclusion that it's probably going to, you need to find Twisted Brusha 5 times because of her being a little bit more of a common Twisted. So for our next quest that I want to talk about is going to be the Trinket related quest. For Sprout, you needed to use the Savory Charm. For Tisha, you needed to use the Feather Duster. And for Finn, you need to use the Fishing Rod. With those in mind, you are definitely going to need to use Brusha's Paint Bucket Trinket in some way, probably in completing machines. That's the most likely way that I'm going to see it. For Finn's, if we look at it at Finn's perspective, Finn's was that you needed to use Fishing Rod, and while having Fishing Rod equipped, you needed to complete 10 machines. Very easy. You can do that very quickly, solo or team run. That is beyond easy. Now, last but not least, the quest that we should be seeing as the final quest is the quest that is going to actually be using the Toon. So for Sprouts, it was you needed to play as Sprout or have a Sprout in your run. For Finn, it was you needed to play as Finn and experience Ichor Leak. And then for Tisha, it was you needed to play as Tisha and clean up ichor puddles. So we can probably expect to see something similar for Brusha. I can't fully say, I don't really know what Brusha's ability is going to be, or what and how they're going to change her. So please guys, leave your comments down below, because honestly, I'm baffled. This has come out super quickly, And I don't really know what we should be expecting to see here. This is something that I had in the back of my mind that there may be a potential to be Brusha with the trail like lead again. But really, I didn't know what they would do for her main effect. Maybe a trail of paint. That's like the biggest thing. So I don't even know what that would do, but that's like that's my biggest claim right now is she would leave some kind of trail of paint. Hey, what's going on? It's editing PeyStorm. While I was recording this video, I realized that I completely left out what the rewards are actually going to be. So let's go ahead and talk about them really quickly. So the first and foremost, the thing that we are going to receive is we are going to get a golden Brusha sticker. This has been a common theme across the 3 previous tunes of the week, so we can probably expect a 4th. The second thing we should be expecting is a Brusha fan title. That's been also a consistent theme, and we should be seeing a golden skin. Now, somebody in my last Tune of the Week video mentioned to me that I left out the Robux skin, so to not leave that out this time, yes, there most likely and probably will be a Robux skin that is going to be in this event, so stay tuned for that, and yeah, back to the video. So other than that, I know I talked about that I didn't really know what I could see as a change for Brusha. I think my most likely lead right now is going to have to be with Waxwell's newest Trinket, because there's no other Toon in the game that has a trail, and Waxwell's Trinket will boost Toons with a trail. He's the only one. So I feel very strongly that Brusha being the next Toon of the Week, her rework has got to be something involving trails or something like that. But other than that, as I talked about in my Tisha video, I wanted to touch on what I think the Trinket rework could get, because Brusha's Trinket is actually very underutilized as soon as you start getting later in the game. Now, starting the game and starting Danny's World, Brusha's Trinket is something you'll encounter very quickly because Brusha is a common twisted, so somebody you'll see more often than not, therefore you'll be able to build up that research very quickly. Brusha's Trinket is very underutilized. Paint Bucket does not get used at all. Like, you will see it in some very rare situations, but Brusha's Trinket is just not that great. It's very weak. It's definitely overshadowed by a lot of other trinkets. There really isn't a reason to choose Paint Bucket after you've got a lot of the other trinkets in the game, because it really is just not as good. And I think that a lot of players are not using Paint Bucket as a whole. Going back to my previous claim that I made in a different video, the Tisha Tune of the Week video, the little pre-update video for that, I talked about how I feel that every trinket in this game needs to have a purpose in one way or another. There's a reason that they make trinkets in this game, and that's because they want players to use them. Every trinket in this game needs to have a purpose somewhere or another. There's obviously going to be trinkets that are better than others, but there's obviously going to be trinkets that there's worse than others as well. But their goal at the end of the day is to find that balance to where even though there will always be this meta group of trinkets, like right now, I'm running Vimo and Magnifying Glass. Like, I'm talking out both sides of my mouth right now. It is bad. I'm using one of these meta trinkets. But their goal for this is going to be that they want you to be able to interchange any sort of combo. Like, they probably would want the Paint Bucket to be able to be substituted for Magnifying Glass. Or maybe even Vimo if they could make it that good. I think that might be a little bit too OP, but you see what I'm talking about. So for a rework that I could see to Paint Bucket, is I could see Paint Bucket maybe being used as like a wrench or a V-mote. Now, right now, as it stands, the Paint Bucket is a skill check, so probably being an extraction would be a little bit of a weird change. But I definitely just seeing a boost to the trinket as a whole is probably a more likely situation, because like I said, Paint Bucket, very underutilized, very not good. Like, that's not even a sentence, but Paint Bucket is just not that good. Like, it is, there's so many better combos you can use. There's so many better trinkets that are just, will just overshadow it 10 to 1. There's no reason to use it unless you're starting the game. So there's really not too much more to talk about. Other than that, I thought I'd just give you guys a little bit of an update video because this update literally just came out, like literally not even an hour ago. As always, I will be making, as a continuation from Monday's video, I will be making an update onto this update this Friday when it comes out. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Make sure to subscribe. But yeah, so I'll see you in that video. Later.